قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد صلوا على محمد وآل محمد أحسنتم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the Muslimin, the Islamic world, with 12 distinctive months. Of these 12 months, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated 4 from the 12 to be known as Al-Ashhur Al-Hurum, the 4 sacred months of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of these 4, you have one of them being the month in which we have just entered, Shahr Muharram Al-Haram. One of them is also the month of Dhul Hijjah, the month in which we perform our pilgrimage to Hajj. And the other month is Dhul Qa'dah. And the last month is Rajab. This is a testimony within the Holy Quran. The Quran says that there are 12 months that belong to Allah. 4 of them I have made known as the sacred months to the Muslimin. Now why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designate 4 and leave the rest? As in the holy month of Ramadan, the month in which the Quran was brought down, the month that has Laylatul Qadr. Or why not Sha'ban, the month in which contains many births of the holy Imams. Many Imams were born during other months, yet Allah designated 4. Dhul Hijjah, Dhul Qa'dah, Rajab, and Muharram. And He called them with prominence the months that are sacred. If you want to understand the importance of the 4 sacred months, you have to first understand the terminology. You begin by realizing, what does the term Hurum mean? As in Al-Ashhur Al-Hurum or Shahr Al-Haram. Shahr, month. Hurum is the root word or the extension of Haram. Haram has 2 meanings. One meaning, for example, an act can either be halal or haram, allowed or forbidden. The second meaning for the word haram is sacred. For example, you have Masjidul Haram, the sacred mosque in Mecca, or Al-Ashhur Al-Haram, the sacred months of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore they have 2 meanings, as in it wouldn't make sense to call the holy mosque the forbidden mosque. No. Therefore, haram has 2 meanings, sacred and forbidden. In this context, Allah uses the word sacred within these months. Why does He designate 4 out of the 12? That is requiring more tafsir into analyzing and examining the reasoning behind it. However, we can assure that one of those months, the holy month of Muharram, Muharram al-Haram, has its level of importance, all thanks to one event. And that is the martyrdom that occurred in the country of Iraq, in the fields of Nainawa, in the land of Karbala, in the afternoon of Ashura. What happened in that particular day gave the holy month of Muharram all its importance and prominence. Otherwise, there is no event, there is no worldly occasion or event where people designate a whole entire month to be known as the month of sadness, the month of misery, the month of oppression that clearly fell down upon the family of Ahlul Bayt. Now we ask ourselves, every single year, and this is a very common question, many people ask this question, is why do we every single year commemorate the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein? As in, we are by now mostly familiar with what went on in Karbala. How, Salamullahi alayhi, Imam al-Hussein was martyred, and what happened to his family. What is the reason behind commemorating these events year after year? As in the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein, when you look at it historically, Imam al-Hussein was born the 4th year after Hijrah. And he was martyred the 61st year after Hijrah, making him, salamullahi alayhi, 57, 56 years old. And that was about in the year 680 AD. 680 AD, and we're in 2016. It's been over 1,300 years now. Every single year we commemorate the tragedy of Ashura, as in, what do we gain from this? We, as you notice, we commemorate the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein, yes, but every year we learn new. Every year we rejuvenate our faith. We renew our vows to Abi Abdullah. We reflect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As in every single year, there are elements that must be diagnosed only through the story of Karbala. What do I mean by this? What do we mean? We mean that if you need a reference for any example in your life, there is no reason to look beyond the events of Karbala. I'll give you an example. Sacrifice, one major aspect and component that occurred in the 10th of Muharram in Karbala. Sacrifice. And many of us can actually guess why. Imam Hussein was martyred. He sacrificed his life. Abu Fadl al-Abbas was martyred. He sacrificed his life. And then another example is, you can look at prayer. Al-Imam al-Hussein had to pray in the middle of the battle. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Al-Imam al-Hussein had to abandon the tragedy that went on during the day and just focus on prayer. Inshallah, they will take care of that after a lot salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Nonetheless, Abi Abdullah had to abandon everything that went on and focus on his salah. Salah to him was the most important thing on his mind. As in, if you're fighting in the middle of the war, and in the middle of the war, the adhan is called, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and so on and so forth. You would abandon the whole entire event, the battle of a lifetime. Life and death is in front of you, and focus on salah. Then when you compare the salah of Imam al-Hussein and compare it to our salah, it's a much more different salah, I assure you. Likewise, salah, sacrifice. Even if you want to look at siyam, fasting. How is fasting implemented in Ashura? Because fasting, when you fast and you have food near you, it becomes difficult to fast. Because you see the food in front of you and you become hungry. Those that have fasted in the months of Ramadan and elsewhere will understand this, that the hardest time during the day is at the time in which you are waiting for your food to be served on the table. That is the most complicated time. When you look at Karbala, there was no food, there was no water, but when you have that in front of you, we fast for about 14 hours. Think about fasting for 3 days. And then you approach the river of Furat, the Euphrates River, and then you have water in your hand. And what do? It's not haram to drink it. It's not haram to take a sip and quench your thirst. Yet somehow, the strength, the valor inside this man, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, salamullahi alayh, compels him. He convinces his soul and throws the water away, doesn't set it down, throws it away, and he says, Ya nafs min ba'd al-Husayn huni, wa ba'dahu ma kunti an takuni. هذا الحسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين. He says, O self, how can you drink the coldness of this water when Hussein is drinking the water of death? This is sacrifice, and he has the option in front of him. And you can connect this with fasting. It's time to eat, but you can refrain a little bit more until the adhan is called. The water is in front of you, and you can drink, and it's not haram even. It's haram to drink when you're fasting, but it's not haram when it's been 3 days. And it's not even fasting, you've just been restrained from this. Yet the juhud, the jihad, the true struggle comes out right here when Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas throws it away. That's another example. Another example could be another business. Business. Every aspect can be done and seen through the examples that occurred in Karbala. Business, let me give you another example. Imam al-Hussein bought the land of Karbala. He bought it with his own money. When he went to Karbala, he spoke with the tribes of Banu Asad, the well-known tribes, the aristocrats of that area, and he said to them that I wish to buy this land, and they gave it to him, however much he paid for it, and he bought the land for himself because he knows he'll be buried here one day. So he wants to have ownership of where he's going to be buried, not just any land, the land that belongs to him. And this could be a reference for business. Any example, any reason, any reference can be done and through the event of Ashura in the land of Karbala. And brothers and sisters, when we say, why do we commemorate the events of Muharram every single year? We say the same things, but we learn different lessons. For example, this question was asked, by the way, by one of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammadin as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Sixth Imam of Ahlul Bayt was asked this question. And Imam as-Sadiq was asked, he came up to him, the companion, and he said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, why do we commemorate Ashura every single year? And this is Imam as-Sadiq at his time. You had between Al-Imam al-Hussein, Al-Imam al-Sadiq, Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein, Al-Imam Muhammadin al-Baqir, and then Imam al-Sadiq. So they were complaining, why every single year? They were wondering that. Look at them now, if they were to ask that question, 1,300 years, over 1,300 years, we still commemorate. The Imam gave them a very powerful response. He said, if we didn't commemorate Ashura every single year, then you would have forgotten what happened in Karbala like you've forgotten Eid al-Ghadir. Many people deny that Imam Ali was appointed the successor because they've forgotten to highlight the events of what went on Eid al-Ghadir. Therefore, it is a job on us to revive these events that go on in the lives of Ahlul Bayt. They say that Ahlul Bayt, their sadness is our sadness. Their pleasure is our pleasure. Their celebrations are our celebrations. Silmun liman salamahum. Harbun liman harabahum. Aduwun liman adahum. We are pleased with whatever you're pleased with. We are satisfied with whatever you're satisfied. We are saddened with what saddens you. We are friends with whoever befriends you, and we are enemies with whoever takes you as their enemy. Dear brothers and sisters, we mentioned Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammadin as-Sadiq on this night, brothers and sisters. Let us remember one event that went on during the life of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam that has an association to the events of Ashura. And inshallah ta'ala we will examine that after a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Every single year, during the lives of Ahlul Bayt, from the first Imam to Sahib al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah, there was always tyrants, caliphs, evil rulers governing the Muslim empire. And the Muslim empire wasn't anything short of the country of Hijaz. No, it spanned between the far easts of China to the far wests of Spain. That was all under the Muslim empire. Whoever was caliph, khalifa of that time had control of all of this. Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammadin as-Sadiq alayhi salam, the caliph of that time, Al-Mansur, Al-Abbasi, was very jealous of the Imam, and he tried his best to ridicule the Imam, to shame the Imam, yet he completely failed every single time. So he decided to give up. He was envious, he was jealous, and he sent a few men to go and burn the house of Al-Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam down. And you listen, brothers and sisters, Ahlul Bayt had generally, for the most part, a big family. Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam had several children, tens of children. He had about 12 sons, counting. Al-Imam al-Hussein, all his sons were named Ali and all his daughters were named Fatima. You'd have to count them in order to see how many there are. Ahlul Bayt have big families. They married from several wives to expand the dhurriya, the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Therefore, when this evil caliph decided to burn down, out of jealousy, the house of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he didn't even keep in mind that there's a family in there. The wives of Imam as-Sadiq, the daughters of Imam as-Sadiq, doesn't care. He goes and he sends a few men and he says to them, go during the night and take these flames and set the house ablaze. Al-Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam was in that house. likewise his whole entire family. And on that night, the house was set on fire. The house was burning. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam managed to get himself out and his family out, but barely escaping the flames and getting wounded. Once the Imam got out of his home, he stood outside looking at his house and he began to cry. Salamullahi alayh. A companion of the Imam approached him. He said, Ya ibna Rasulillah, why do you cry? Do you cry because your house is now on fire? Because we know that you are an Imam ma'soom. You do not have any attachment to materialistic needs and desires. Ya ibna Rasulillah, do you cry because you have now lost your house? Al-Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammadin al-Sadiq gives a very phenomenal reply. He says, I do not cry because I witnessed, and brothers and sisters, we know where this is headed. I do not cry because I saw my house burning. I do not cry because my home is now gone. I cry because when I saw my house on fire, I saw my daughters running from room to room amongst the flames. He said, I saw my house burning and I saw my wife running from room to room away from the flames. When I saw my daughter running between the flames from room to room, it reminded me of Ruqayya running from tent to tent amongst the fires. He says, when I saw Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam running from tent to tent, this event reminded me of what happened in the night and the day of Ashura. I saw my family running back and forth, room to room, trying to get out of the house that's burning. It reminded me of the day when Hussein was no more and the Sayyidah Zainab was running tent to tent, the daughters of Rasulullah. Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq then says, وَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْأَعْيُنَ الَّتِي جَرَتْ دُمُوعُهَا رَحْمَةً لَنَا. Ya Allah, have mercy on the eyes that have shed tears out of mercy and compassion for us, Ahlul Bayt. And he continues and he says, وَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْقُلُوبَ الَّتِي جَزَعَتْ وَاحْتَرَقَتْ لَنَا. Ya Allah, please have compassion and mercy for the hearts that have been burnt and have been filled with sorrow and grief for us, Ahlul Bayt. And he continues and he says, وَارْحَمْ الصَّرْخَةَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ لَنَا. Ya Allah, show mercy upon the scream that came out from compassion for us. Ilahi, please show us the intercession of Imam al-Hussein in these days. Muharram is a time in which we reflect upon that tragedy that took place over 1,300 years ago. And in this month, we are recommended to wear black. Black is the color of sorrow. Black is the color of misery. Brothers and sisters, Ahlul Bayt would wear black in remembrance to the day of Ashura. You have Imam Ali al-Ridha alayhi salam. He saw a man slaughter a sheep. And again, this is a very popular incident. He says to the man, did you give the sheep water before you slaughtered it? The man said, yes, I always give my animals water before I slaughter them. The Imam said to him, good. The man said, why do you ask me? The man said, why do you ask me, did I give water to my sheep before I slaughtered it? Because Imam al-Ridha then replies a reply very powerful. He says, because my grandfather Hussein wasn't given water when he was slaughtered. So keep this a tradition to show mercy upon everything. Before you end its life, before you do anything else, remember Imam al-Hussein when you drink water. Brothers and sisters, we have to have this reflection in our heart that there was a man who gave his life for the faith, for humanity. You don't need to be Muslim, you don't need to be Shi'i. You can be anything. I'm not surprised that there was a man by the name of Wahab al-Nasrani, Christian, who was martyred on the path of Imam al-Hussein. Just have a heart, was martyred without water. And not just Abi Abdullah, his child Abdullah al-Radi', not just Abdullah, his brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, not just al-Abbas, his whole entire family was martyred without water. Could you imagine monsters that would do such acts today? It is very rare to see such things go on. That is why we say and we reflect on what Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba says, La yawm كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Please raise your hands, brothers and sisters. Let us perform these acts of dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the first night of Muharram. Ask Him, and inshallah dua is going to be mustajab, a day in which we remember Imam al-Hussein, to grant us the ziyarah of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Allahumma ameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the shafa'ah of Imam al-Hussein in this dunya and in this akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Wa salli ala Muhammad.